98.5 Jacksonville. He's Hacker.
Talk about a fried egg. I lasted about 5 minutes out there. I said, to heck with this. I'll do this in the morning. And I don't have any inside information. The lady that did it, she got in there. She made it happen.
And he doesn't shy away from opinion.
And I do enjoy drinking cold beer at ballparks. So if that makes me a baseball fan, then I'm a diehard baseball fan.
It's Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
And a very good Monday evening to you, Jacksonville. It is Hacker After Dark, 1010XL, 92.5 FM with Dylan Denmark. The Hacker Ryan Green with you, Jacksonville. We are glad you are spending part of your Monday evening with us, a Monday evening that finds us 1 week away from NFL free agency. That's right, the negotiation period that you can agree to terms on deals next Monday and Tuesday, and those deals can officially be signed next Wednesday when the NFL league calendar opens on March the 12th. So 1 week away, and that's why you have seen the beginning of a lot of things starting to happen around the league. T. Higgins was franchised today. In fact, today was the deadline to use the franchise tag. You saw Darius Slay is being released in Philadelphia. You saw Alex Kappa, the offensive guard, is being released in Cincinnati. You'll see a lot more of that stuff as we get deeper into the week. And just know the guys that are being released, their teams are doing them a solid. Philadelphia did Darius Slay a solid. Cincinnati did Alex Kappa a solid, because anybody that gets released now gets basically a 1 week head start on everybody else. Free agents can't negotiate until March the 10th. But if you get released from your contract prior to March the 10th, you can negotiate with teams. So teams will do guys solids and let them out 6-7 days ahead of everybody else, which is why you will see a lot of guys getting released and getting the opportunity to get signed by a new club prior to next week's free agent period beginning. We're obviously going to spend a lot of time on the Jaguars. The combine is now in the rearview mirror. Boy, that's hard to believe. That thing came and got here pretty quick, and now it's over. So we'll review the combine, but we'll certainly spend a lot of time on the Jags, on free agency, on where they're going to go. The coaching staff has been assembled, the EVP of football operations, the general manager, all the newness that is here. And now it's time to do something about the player personnel, the player acquisition phase of the NFL offseason. It begins next week with free agency, and obviously it'll carry into late April with the NFL draft. Guest lineup tonight looks like this. Coming up in about 15 minutes, my buddy Brian Sexton, Jaguars.com. The guy is a Jacksonville Jaguar encyclopedia. He's been here since day one. We'll have Brian on to talk about everything that has transpired, from Liam Cohen to James Gladstone to Tony Baselli. And we'll talk free agency. We'll talk about the futures of Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram, Andre Sisco, Brandon Sheriff, and more. And we'll do that with Brian Sexton of Jaguars.com. That comes up in about 15 minutes or so. And at the top of the 9 o'clock hour, Ian Cummings of Pro Football Network. PFN is a very valuable resource, really year-round, but certainly this time of year when it comes to free agency and the draft. They have one of the best mock draft simulators out there. That's what I do my Monday mock on every week that you see me post on my X account, is from Pro Football Network. Well, Ian Cummings is the NFL draft guy for PFN, and he will join me to recap the combine and talk Jaguar draft at the top of the 9 o'clock hour. We're glad you're with us to kick off a week here on Hacker After Dark. Every night here on HAD, we do lead it off with a big deal of the night and Dylan Denmark. Let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night.
What's the big deal?
What is the big deal? No, because it is a big deal.
On Hacker After Dark.
Combine in the rearview mirror. We're a week away from free agency, and we're a week away from hopes and dreams, right? The idea of T. Higgins, I guess, got squashed earlier today as Cincinnati put the franchise tag on T. Higgins. But still, whether it's Javon Holland, whether it's Trevon Moehrig, whether it's Stephon Diggs, Amari Cooper, all sorts of guys, all sorts of big names that are available, right? Everybody wants to see splashes, and goodness knows the Jaguars have made splashes in years past. They made huge splashes a few years ago with Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram, right? Gigantic splashes. You then go to last year with Gabe Davis, Eric Armstead, Mitch Morse, Ronald Darby. I mean, names, big names. Some have worked out and some haven't worked out. And pretty much anybody that was signed last year did not work out. So the question is, what are the Jaguars going to do beginning next week in NFL free agency? And how will that affect what they do in late April in the NFL draft? And I've thought about this all weekend, reading the tea leaves, right? Listening to Liam Cohen, listening to the brief interaction that we've gotten from James Gladstone and his, 11 days on the job. And one thing has struck me about rumors that are circulating about things the Jaguars may or may not do beginning next week. I think it's going to be a fairly active free agent period for Jacksonville, but I think some of you might consider it a boring free agent period here in Jacksonville. Let me tell you why. I don't know how many splashes are going to be made at wide receiver or at safety, tight end or cornerback, linebacker. But I do think the Jaguars are going to make some signings with the big uglies, man. The lines of scrimmage. The interior offensive line and the interior defensive line. And I'm all for it. Because quite frankly, I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of seeing the Jacksonville Jaguars get pushed all over the field on Sunday afternoons. I mean, think about it. Even in the good year of 2022, they still did not have a great pass rush. They had a decent pass rush, but it wasn't good or superb. They still at times struggled running the football in short yardage. You then fast forward to 2023 and 2024, they never replaced Arden Key. Never. In the last 2 years, they've had two guys be able to affect the quarterback. Joshua Hines-Allen, Trayvon Walker. That is it. That is the only resemblance of a pass rush they have had for 2 consecutive years. Hines-Allen and Walker. I think that changes this year. On the offensive line, they've done some things, right? Ezra Cleveland, Mitch Morse, drafted Anton Harrison. They've tried. Harrison's been decent. The interior of the offensive line left a lot to be desired last year. Maybe even more than 2023. They haven't run the ball up the middle in 2 years. That needs to be changed. So again, I don't know how exciting this free agent period is going to be. I don't know how over the moon you're going to be with the guys they bring in. I don't think their free agents are going to necessarily sell a lot of additional season tickets in the next couple of months. But I think some of the guys that they bring in on the interior O-line and the interior D-line will help them win games in September and October. And at the end of the day, that's far, far more important for what you want the Jaguars to do. It would be nice to get hyped in March and April, but we've been there. We've done that. Look at last year. Didn't result in the fall. This year, maybe free agency you might consider to be a tad boring. But if that results in more wins in the fall, I'm willing to bet you will not care come September and October. Jaguars need to establish the line of scrimmage, man. They have not done that in 2 years. We all know about their short yardage problems, and they are ridiculous. Is there a worse short yardage team in the NFL than the Jacksonville Jaguars the last couple of years? It's like 3rd and 4th and 1 was a death sentence until they finally started sneaking the ball with Trevor Lawrence. Then they got some success. They still cannot hand it off to a tailback on 3rd and 1 and get a first down. It basically never happens. On the defensive line, they couldn't stop the run last year to save their life. And again, they got no pass rush up the middle. None whatsoever. Hines, Allen, and Walker from the outside, and that is it. Invest in both lines of scrimmage. Again, I would love for the Jaguars to bring in this star wide receiver, that former Pro Bowl corner, this 24-year-old safety with all-pro potential. That would be wonderful. And maybe if they finagle the salary cap enough, maybe we can see some of that. But I'm far more interested in bringing in 310-pounders on the O-line and the D-line that will push people around. You know, I'm willing to bet in Philadelphia they weren't over the moon about Landon Dickerson. I bet Lane Johnson really didn't give them a thrill in the month of April. And keep in mind, Philadelphia, they're not exactly Southeastern Conference football fans. Do you think they were doing backflips about Jordan Davis? Do you think Philadelphia fans up in the Pennsylvania area were fired up about Jalen Carter and Joshua Sweat? Of course not. Are they fired up about him now? That they're holding up Super Bowl rings? Primarily because of the O-line and the D-line being absolutely dominant for essentially the entire year? You bet. So that's what I want. Improve the line of scrimmage, you'll improve the Jaguars. Hey, getting T. Higgins would be great. Getting T. Higgins would be wonderful. Pairing him up with Brian Thomas Jr., are you kidding me? That would be phenomenal. Until Trevor Lawrence gets sacked 3 times a game and gets hurt in week 5 again. And then what are you doing? Right? You can have the best skill position players on planet Earth. If your offensive line doesn't block for your quarterback, does any of it matter? Likewise, you could have ridiculous corners. You could have Deion Sanders and Darrell Green back there. If a quarterback has 6 seconds to throw the football, it's not going to matter. I don't care who's covering him. Sexy? No. Will it sell tickets and get people fired up? Will it sell jerseys? Probably not. But go add multiple starters on the interior O-line and the interior D-line, and that's going to solve a ton of Jacksonville's problems over the last couple of years. And that is what I envision seeing the Jaguars do, maybe not only in free agency, but particularly in the draft as well. And I'm curious, hit me up on the text line. It's on by Lifetime Enclosures, 641-1010. Would you be okay with that? If the Jaguars bring in 5 or 6 free agents and 75% of that is on the line of scrimmage, would you be okay with that? Or do you want the appeal of the glamour positions in free agency? Curious how you feel about it. Because, again, to me, give me the big uglies. Give me the lines of scrimmage. And that is where I hope James Gladstone, Tony Baselli, and Liam Cohen go beginning next week when NFL free agency begins. Brian Sexton, Jaguars.com, coming up in about 5 minutes. Before we get there, Denmark on a Monday evening on the 3rd day of March in 2025. As happens from time to time, we like to give back to the hard-working men and women, the folks that lay it all on the line here in Northeast Florida. We also like to give back to the families that are driving home from dinner, any point in between. So on this Monday evening here on Hacker After Dark, what do we have for the good folks in Jacksonville?
I got a pair of tickets to the Celtic Music and Heritage Festival on March 8th and 9th, downtown St. Augustine. Give me a call at 641-1010.
The Celtic Festival, downtown St. Augustine. What dates?
March 8th and 9th.
March 8th and 9th. That's coming up this weekend. If you want to go down to St. Augustine, call Dylan Denmark right now. We will take caller number 4 at 641-1010. That's a good time down there. I've been to that a couple of years back. in St. Augustine, the Celtic Music Festival, downtown St. Aug. Caller 4 right now, 641-1010. And Denmark will hook you up with those tickets. Let's talk Jaguars. Let's talk what's happened in the last month. Let's talk free agency. And let's do that with my buddy Brian Sexton. He's next on a Monday night in Jacksonville, Florida. We're glad you're with us right here on Hacker After Dark.
Making spring a Jacksonville thing.
What a week!
Get live Southeast Orthopedic Specialist leaderboard updates.
Enhanced by
Dermagnify, medical, surgical, and cosmetic dermatology, San Jose Collision, and Doorbell Farms Produce Delivery.
Greenlaw Group is for the insured. If you think you have roof damage, call 904-302-7055 today, and they will schedule you a free roof inspection. Trust their law firm to help you fight your insurance when you need it. These storms can cause damage you may not even see yet. Call Greenlaw Group 302-7055. There's no cost to retain their law firm and no cost to have your roof inspected. They only get paid if you win. Greenlaw Group, for the insured.
Tired of seeing the signs of aging in the mirror, fine lines, sun damage, redness? They don't have to be part of your future. I'm Dr. Mark Capel, a board-certified dermatologist, and I can help you look and feel your best without invasive surgery or painful treatments. Imagine rejuvenating your skin in a relaxing, comfortable environment with minimal to no downtime. Smooth out fine lines, even skin tone, and restore that youthful glow. Find out how to look and feel your best at Dermagnify.com. Dermagnify.com.
Here's your 1010XL First Coast Community Calendar.
If you'd like to spend your spring and summer at the ballpark, plan to attend the Jumbo Shrimps Job Fair March 15th at the Five-Star Ballpark. You can learn about the positions offered at jackshrimp.com.
Your love can give pets a purpose. To adopt a loving animal from the Jacksonville Humane Society, call 725-8766. Veterans, first responders, and law enforcement officers deserve the best treatment. That's why ETMS Florida provides a free, drug-free electromagnetic treatment that helps lower symptoms of PTSD, anxiety, insomnia, and depression. Learn more at etmsflorida.com.
Caddyshack Ranch provides a safe, loving, and forever home to endangered big cats. Caddyshack on the north side of Jacksonville has helped lions, tigers, and endangered animals for 30 years. Learn how you can visit or help at caddyshackranch.org.
Share your community event at 1010XL.com.
Jacksonville, get ready to spice up your night at One Night Taco Stand. Every Taco Tuesday, enjoy their mouth-watering tacos for just $2.99 and get your weekend started with 2-for-1 house margaritas. Find fresh Mexican street food, stiff drinks, and fun vibes at One Night Taco Stand with 3 Jacksonville locations in Mandarin, Orange Park, and Southside at Bay Meadows.
Rev up the off-season with AA Automotive. Let's go. Big names, bold moves, and breaking news.
That's a beautiful thing.
Follow the free agency frenzy. Built by Superior Fence and Rail and Roland Reach Plumbing on 1010XL.
Okay, for this Cannons of Jacksonville commercial, we need an idea to really come out with a bang.
Like having a guy shot out of a cannon.
Nah, too messy. In fact, Cannons is known for all your towing needs.
So like my car won't start.
No. Towing products. Cannons does custom welding fabrication and installation of trailer hitches, goosenecks, tow bars, truck racks.
So you might say Cannons is my best shot at finding that inventory in stock?
Boom. You said it.
Visit cannonsofjacks.com.
This is Hayes Carline for Kingfish Pest Control, a local family-owned business that's been chosen as the exclusive pest control provider for the brand new state-of-the-art Miller Electric Performance Center. As a Kingfish customer myself, I know their effectiveness in keeping spiders, roaches, bugs, and termites out. When I trust them for my family and the Jags trust them for their business, then you can too. For the best service in town, call my friends at Kingfish Pest Control, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I'm with Greg from Cycles of Jacksonville, and you've got really cool things going on right now because there's new product coming in the showroom. Tell everybody about the Aprilia Demo Days.
March 11th and 12th. It's a Tuesday, Wednesday. We're going to have the Aprilia Demo Truck. We caught them on the way back from Daytona Bike Week. They're going to be there. Come ready to ride.
Tell everybody real quick about Aprilia.
They are a bad Italian motorcycle. Nobody's ever ridden an Italian anything and said that wasn't fun.
Check it out. Cycles of Jacksonville. All the details on their Facebook page.
Nick in here for Bound 9 Associates, where you'll find Jacksonville's most esteemed eye doctors at each of their locations. After being selected for one of the most competitive ophthalmology fellowships in the world, Dr. Frank Bowden is frequently called upon for his expert opinion. He is currently one of the few cornea and external disease specialists in the area and the founder of Bound 9. Visit Bound 9 Associates today and experience the difference. Bound 9 Associates, keeping the First Coast focused.
Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you. Call 904-722-1111.
Instant Keys saves the day if you've lost or broken keys. They can program new keys and remotes for nearly every make and model of vehicle at a fraction of the dealership cost. Fast, honest, and reliable locksmith service. Call Instant Keys, 722-1111.
Do you know someone looking for a fun and rewarding summer job? Join the YMCA team, gain valuable experience, and make a difference in kids' lives. Turn your passion for this community into a fulfilling career at the First Coast YMCA. Now hiring camp counselors, lifeguards, childcare leaders, and membership experience team. Every single person on the dedicated YMCA staff plays a role in making the Y a welcoming and vital resource for our community. Find your career at the Y at fcymca.org.
Equal opportunity employer. 1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Check it on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. And just like that, the NFL Scouting Combine is in the rearview mirror. We have free agency next week. We are almost 2 months into the offseason. It doesn't even really feel like an offseason has even begun here in Jacksonville. There has been so much going on. Let's recap everything. Let's preview free agency, and let's do that with my buddy Brian Sexton, Jaguars.com. Always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Brian, how we doing, man?
Great, Ryan. Nice to catch up with you.
Hey, Brian, we always appreciate it. And what about that? I mean, the Indianapolis game in Week 18 was darn near 2 months ago. But with everything that has transpired, I mean, the news hasn't stopped over the last 8 weeks.
No, it's funny how fast things change. You know, the day after the season, when there's, the coach is fired and the general manager is kept on board, and it's doom and gloom. And today it's as exciting around the stadium and as exciting in Duval County and North Florida as it's been in an awful long time. It's kind of like the weather, right? Hold on, it'll change.
There's no doubt about that, and it has changed an awful lot. And let's begin. We had you on when Liam Cohen got hired, but we haven't talked to you on air about Baselli or Gladstone. Let's begin with Baselli. I know at the time you and I last spoke, Brian, you were a big advocate of Tony Baselli getting the EVP job. He indeed did get that role. What's your takeaway from it?
Well, he's the perfect person for it, and I've said this to a lot of people, and I'm sure I'm not the only one saying it. There's just no one else that's going to care about the franchise as much as someone who owns it. In other words, Tony Baselli is going to treat Shad Khan's franchise as if it's Tony Baselli's franchise. And there are a few of us who have been around that have the strong feelings like that. None of us are qualified to have the job that Baselli has. But I know what it means to love that franchise like I own it. And Baselli, he is just, because his name is on the wall, because he has the gold jacket, he has the kind of credibility that building needs. So when he speaks, even though he's never been an EVP before, when he speaks, whether it's to a coach or a scout or equipment or someone on the business side, that person's going to listen. Hey, that's Tony Baselli talking. And Tony is only going to talk about things that matter, things that make sense. There'll be a lot of little changes in that building that the outside world will never see, that will contribute to the culture that Tony wants to build, that Liam Cohen wants to build, that James Gladstone wants to build. But Baselli carries such a big stick because of who he is, how long he's been affiliated with the franchise, what he means to Northeast Florida. Ryan, I just don't think they could have hired anybody. In fact, I know they could not have hired anybody in that role that will do what Tony can do. And I have utmost confidence in him. because like you, I've known him an awful long time.
Brian Sexton, Jaguars.com, completely agree. Tony Baselli did not need that job. He certainly had a lot going on personally, professionally. Tony Baselli wanted that job. He wants to be a part of turning this organization around, the organization which he was the number 1 overall draft pick, the number 1 or the first Hall of Famer in franchise history. I completely echo your sentiments. And Brian, that brings me to James Gladstone, the most recent hire about 10 days ago. Truth be told, if you would ask me a month ago who James Gladstone was, I'm not sure I would have been able to tell you. But when I found out he was the director of scouting, when I found out he was Les Snead's right-hand man, when I listened to what he was saying in those video clips out in L.A., and then when I've listened to what he said so far here, Brian, I got to be honest, man, I get why the fan base is excited about this guy.
Well, he's part of a franchise that, in the 9 years that he was there with them, they went to the playoffs 6 times. They won 4 division titles. They played in 2 Super Bowls, and they won 1. So he's got a track record of winning. A couple of us have been around. We remember when Les Snead was Ron Hill's right-hand man in 95 and 96 and 97 and followed his career through Atlanta and St. Louis and finally to L.A. There's a couple of people with Jaguar ties that are out there in L.A., and I made a phone call to one of them. And last week before, and said, tell me about James Gladstone. He said, listen, in a building filled with stars, right? Great coaches, great personnel people, great winners in professional football, he might be the best of them all. Okay, listen, you all the names, I maybe knew 2 or 3 of the names for that general manager's job, but I couldn't have told you, what separated one from the other. Maybe the city they were in and the winning record or players that have been drafted. But, when they're the assistant general manager, you don't necessarily know what they thought of that player or how much of a role they had in hiring the coaching staff or any of those things. But when I was told that this guy in L.A. was the shining star among shining stars, hey, it doesn't hurt that the guy's from St. Louis, which is my hometown, and a Midwestern guy. I kind of like that part of it. And, interestingly enough, he and Mark Lamping both went to St. John Vianney High School. So there's some little ties there. It's funny how the world works. But this is a really, really smart guy who knows what winning looks like. He is young. So, I've used this term a couple times with you. He's part of the hedge fund generation in the NFL. Young, data-driven, aggressive, will turn conventional wisdom on its ear if he believes it will help them win. And so I'm kind of excited about it too. And, albeit, he's a first-time general manager. Liam Cohen's a first-time head coach. Tony Baselli is a first-time executive vice president of football. They're all super bright, have a track record of winning. And from what we can tell so far, man, they hit the ground running and they haven't stopped.
Brian Sexton, Jaguars.com. Brian, I call you the Jaguar Encyclopedia. You've been around since day one, and I'm curious, you're in that building right now. I mean, 29-year-old Grant Udinski, 42-year-old Anthony Campanile. We talk about 34-year-old James Gladstone, 39-year-old Liam Cohen. I mean, there is a youth movement. There is no doubt about that, and particularly at the head coach spot, you have to go back to Coughlin, I believe, to find an offensive mind, quote-unquote, an offensive mind under the age of 50 that was hired as the head coach here in Jacksonville because, of course, Gus Bradley and Jack Del Rio, although young, were defensive guys. Everybody else was over the age of 50 when they were hired as the head coach on the offensive side of the ball. What is the vibe in that building now that all the youth movement has arrived, if you will?
Well, I'm sure it feels like working in Silicon Valley, although I've never worked in Silicon Valley. I asked Udinski at his news conference, what does it feel like to be, this young staff? And he said, I don't know, because I don't know what it feels like to be young or old. I just know what it's like to be 29. What you have there is a group that is coming in with something to prove. That's really what they've got. They know they're young, and they know that they've got to prove something, but they also have a high degree of confidence based on, what they've done, what Anthony did with the Green Bay Packers defense, which both Jeff Loggeman and Tony Baselli were telling me that the Sunday that we played the Packers last year was as difficult to match up for the Jaguars as they'd find all season. These are accomplished young coaches, and it's important to point out, We always looked at experience. How long have you been in the NFL? How long have you been a coordinator? How many wins did you have? We were looking at experience, but we weren't necessarily looking at track record. I mean, yes, you did, but what matters is that these guys can do the job, or they've been somewhere and proven that they've done the job already, not how old they are or how many years they've been in the NFL. Udinski apparently did a phenomenal job last year with both J.J. McCarthy, who wasn't playing, and Sam Darnold, who was. That was all it took for Kevin O'Connell to be able to say, yeah, this guy's ready to make that next step. And, of course, O'Connell, like Liam Cohen, comes from L.A., had been on that staff. Jags are plugging into a system of thought that comes from the Shanahan tree. And if your listeners have not heard it, there is a great podcast called The Play Callers. And it's done by the woman who works as the ESPN reporter covering L.A. Her name escapes me. But go listen to it and understand the mindset of that Shanahan tree, which, as you know, encompasses about a third of the NFL these days. But that's where Liam Cohen comes from. That's where a lot of these guys come from. Udinski through O'Connell, back through Sean McVay, who was part of Shanahan tree. So I think your listeners will find it very engaging. It's great to listen to. It's very well told.
Brian, I want to end with a couple of thoughts on free agency. Before we get there, look, inside that building, it might not have been this thought, but as well as I do in the Jaguar fan base, from the Zoom press conference that Shad had with Trent Baalke some 7.5 weeks ago to where we were last week at the Miller Electric Center with those 6 guys on the stage, from Shad to Tony Khan to Mark Lamping, obviously Gladstone, Baselli, and certainly Liam Cohen. Man, in the fan base's eyes, that was 180 degrees. It was wild, the difference of opinion from negative with the Zoom conference with Baalke and Shad to where it landed last week at the Miller Electric Center.
So I think I told Mike Dempsey on his show. This was before Baalke left. And I could make the case of, from the owner's perspective, based on the roster and the salary cap and what our expectations for last year were, I could see why Shad wasn't willing to just swipe it clean. And I got the question from Mike, yeah, but will he if it impedes the process? And I, without even thinking, said 100%, absolutely he will. And afterwards, I said, why, to myself, I said, why were you so confident that he would? And it comes back to this. And I think it answers your question. Shad Khan wants to win. It is the one thing he has not done with this franchise consistently. And yet it's the thing he has done across his entire career. If you look at what he did from, graduating from the University of Illinois to now and accumulating $1 billion fortune and franchises in major sports and his boat and Flexingate, he wants to win so badly. That's why I was convinced that if it came to the point where he had to then now wipe it clean, that he would. And of course, within days, he did. He wants to win. If anyone doubted that, and emotions get the best of us. In so many respects, I would hear callers to shows or see things on social media, and people were railing against Khan, and I couldn't get it because the franchise wouldn't be here still if it wasn't for Shad Khan, who is as innovative as Sean McVay is on offense in terms of operating in a lower revenue, smaller NFL market. He has done things and created opportunities. Look at London. Right? Now every team is playing overseas. He was way ahead of it. And it's been one of those things that have really helped the franchise stay. He will do whatever it takes to win. And that is what the move was. He thought it was holding on to Baalke. It became clear that wasn't it. So he made the move. He wants to win.
Fan base is fired up. There's no doubt about it. Brian Sexton, Jaguars.com. Brian, as we wrap up free agency next week, and I guess we should get clarity, I would imagine, prior to next week about the futures of Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram. Both have been a big conversation piece in this city as free agency approaches.
Yeah, there's some big cap savings there. I'm not sure. Again, you have a new general manager, new coach, new EVP. Trying to figure out what their particular strategy is going to be is a guessing game. But, listen, they did say, and I think this is very important, that Trevor Lawrence was going to have a say in how things go. Not that Trevor's going to determine the roster, but you can hear the conversation between the coach and Trevor. Hey, what if we do this with Christian? And you can just hear Trevor say, that's my guy. Now, I understand Brian Thomas is number one. Number one. But Christian Kirk is one of those guys. If they can make some adjustments to his salary, $24 million for a guy who hasn't been able to stay healthy and is not the number one anymore, you got to make some adjustments. You got to figure some things out. I think Evan Ingram had a bad year last year. He was injured early, and he never found his rhythm. See, that's not a guy that I'm ready to part. I'm not ready to see him go. And I would imagine that the quarterback is not either. They're going to have to put all of that data into the hopper with the offense and what Liam Cohen's beliefs and philosophies are. I don't know particularly what they're going to do, but they don't have to do anything, and they've got cap maneuverability this year. I wouldn't be surprised if both of them are there. In fact, I would be surprised if both of them are gone. I wouldn't be surprised if both of them are there.
Brian, final question. Obviously, the outside free agents, we'll see what happens. Like you said, the Jaguars do have some room. They only have a dozen or so unrestricted free agents in-house and only 2 starters. And a lot's been talked about with Brandon Sheriff and primarily Andre Sisco. And I'm just curious, as we say goodbye, your thoughts on both guys.
Listen, Sisco had everything to prove last year, and he didn't prove it. I would let him go and test the market. I also don't understand fully how he would be used in the new defensive scheme. I would let him go. He's a talented guy. He's shown that over the years. He's a guy who people are going to be interested in. But last year when I had him on my roster in my locker room and I did not pay him and I challenged him, I'm speaking third person, obviously, but he didn't perform. So I wouldn't be interested in having him back. Brandon Sheriff was one of the highest rated pass blocking guards in the league. But you know what they couldn't do? They still couldn't convert on 3rd and short. Mm-hmm. And listen, that offense that they ran in Tampa last year was one of the best in the league at converting. I think I let him go as well. Find a spot where he can perhaps win. I got to carry $13 million, I think, in dead money on him anyway. I'm moving on. I'm going to draft a couple of guys. I got 10 picks this year. I got 10 picks next year. I'm going to find a way to find a couple of offensive linemen and develop them my own. And again, I'm saying that without understanding fully what the new offensive line coach's belief and philosophy is. But those 2 guys, you know what? It's time to move on. You can't keep everybody. You just can't. And I want to get better on the back end of the defense for the obvious reason and in the heart of the offensive line, because for the last 2 years, that's been a real disappointment.
Brian, it's been a wild 2 months. Jaguars.com has had terrific stuff all along the way. I imagine in the next couple of weeks that will certainly continue.
Yeah, we're back with Jags AM on Tuesdays and happy hours back on Thursday afternoons. We're cranking it up. The great thing, and having Tony Baselli, who was one of us, right? One of the guys who was on the air, is that he understands, the ability to share a story and send a message to the fan base. So the access that we had was really good, amongst the best in the league. It will not go backwards. I would imagine it's only going to get better. Having a guy like Tony Baselli and a young coach like Liam Cohen and a young general manager like James Gladstone, they're going to see the power in speaking directly to the fan base through the media, especially their in-house media production. So if I'm a Jags fan, I would look forward to seeing the hunt and a lot of the great things that production team does get even better.
Brian Sexton, Jaguars.com. Brian, always appreciate the time. Thank you, pal. We'll do it again soon.
Brian, anytime. Appreciate you.
From pit road to victory lane.
Checkered flag is in the air.
This Sunday at Phoenix, NASCAR is revved up by the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Local Union 234. From Jacksonville's NASCAR station, 1010XL.
If you are an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Miller Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Miller Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
Bueller. Stay cooler with Bueller.
Hey, buddy, you look worried.
Worried? I'm apoplectic.
You're what now? I'm freaking out, Jason. Stupid water heater crapped out, so I haven't showered since Thursday. I start smelling a little funky, blow my big corporate job interview tomorrow. I'll end up settling for some dead-end career selling spatulas on the internet.
Dude, stay cool.
There's nothing cool about a cold shower, Jason. I mean, I know how that sounds, but...
Bueller Air and Plumbing can get a new water heater installed today. The day you call. You could be smelling fresh again by dinner time.
Wait, you can do that?
Put on these sunglasses. Whoa. Is that cooler?
Oh, yeah.
Well, life moves pretty fast. If you spend much more time smelling like this, you could miss it.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
Do the Garber wiggle, Garber wiggle, 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 Garber wiggle.
Garber Auto Mall is home of the lifetime warranty. Every new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Chevy, Buick, GMC, and Ford comes with a lifetime warranty. At Garber Auto Mall, your purchase is covered for life. Visit us in Green Cove Springs or at GarberAutomall.com. And remember, at Garber Auto Mall, there's always a little room for wiggle.
Garber wiggle, Garber wiggle, 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 Garber wiggle.
Staying alive one night of the Bee Gees, a tribute like you've never seen before. Experience the songs and sights of a full Bee Gees playlist performed live. March 6th at Jack Center for the Performing Arts. Tickets at fscjartistseries.org.
If fishing is in your DNA, hop in the boat with Captain Kevin. It's the Ring Power Fishing Forecast Show. Brought to you by Awaken 180 Weight Loss and Royal Pest Services.
Thursday nights at 6
on 1010XL AM.
Hello, First Coast. I'm sure by now you have seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We're an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We're committed to customer service, reliability, and have an unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today from GFL, Green for Life.
Cannonball!
Honey, someone's in our pool.
Oh, refreshing.
John, what are you doing?
Oh, hey, Dave. Seeing as how me and the guys at Clearwater Irrigation reinstalled your sprinklers after the pool contractor ripped it out, I thought you wouldn't mind if I took a quick dip.
But in a Jaguar print Speedo?
Yeah, Dave. My bad.
Clearwater Irrigation. We can't sing a lick, but we sure are good at sprinklers.
And drainage, too.
Have you got concrete or asphalt rubble piling up? Arcosa Crushed Concrete will pay you for it and recycle it. They're just minutes from Everbank Stadium on Talleyrand. Call Arcosa Crushed Concrete and get paid for what you don't need. ArcosaCrushedConcrete.com.
Transform your bathroom with stunning shower glass from Sky Glass Solutions in Jacksonville Beach. For a free quote, call 904-608-5151 or visit skyglasssolutions.com.
AA Automotive helps keep your vehicle in dependable and safe condition. Call Sam, Harry, or Joe, and they'll check your brakes, tires, fluids, electric, and motor, so your ride runs smooth on the road. That's AA Automotive on Richard Street.
If someone you love needs a pick-me-up, then it's time to get serious about it and send them a Kuhn Floral Arrangements. Dylan Denmark here with 1010XL. You'll be assured of a quality delivery, that's for sure. Log on and order online at kuhnflowers.com.
New and pre-owned firearms are always in stock at Beach's Jewelry and Pawn in Jacksonville Beach. Want a new sidearm or rifle? Brands like Kimbar, Smith & Wesson, Sig Sauer, and Beretta. No lines, no hassle. Beach's Jewelry and Pawn in Jacksonville Beach.
Your hole-in-one for men's health is Ackerman Urology. With offices in Mandarin, Middleburg, Rural Gulf Village, and the Beaches, Ackerman will get you on par for any prostate conditions and sexual vitality. Visit AckermanUrology.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in the National Football League. As again, a week away from free agency. You know, we knew Trey Smith of the Kansas City Chiefs was given the franchise tag, the offensive guard. Cincinnati officially did put the franchise tag on T. Higgins, second year in a row. that T. Higgins was tagged in Cincinnati. Not a lot of franchise tags this year, though. I don't know what the average is, but by my count, Denmark, there's only those two, right? I don't think anybody else got tagged. Trey Smith in Kansas City, T. Higgins in Cincinnati, and I believe that's it.
Yeah, I think there might be one more, but those are the only two that I
Unless
can think
maybe
of.
Dallas tagged that defensive end, but again, I don't know if that was official. I don't know why the tag would be down this year unless there just weren't a lot of coveted free agents on the market. Interesting, but nevertheless, second year in a row, T. Higgins does get the franchise tag. Also in Cincinnati, Alex Kappa, a guy that has started a lot of games on the interior offensive line in the NFL, released today. Pretty significant cap savings with that. Darius Slay, also in Philadelphia. How about that? He wins the Super Bowl 22 days ago. He gets told today he's going to be released by the Philadelphia Eagles. But as we talked about in hour number one, most guys that get released right now, their team that is releasing them is doing them a solid, is doing them a favor, because they can begin negotiating with other teams prior to next Monday. Next Monday is when free agency begins, but if you're released from a contract between now and next Monday, you can kind of get a head start on finding a new home. So most of the guys that get released need to thank the team that's releasing them, because they're giving them essentially a 7-day head start on finding that new location. As we talked about on Friday, Matt Stafford back in LA, all the talk about Las Vegas, all the talk about the New York Giants, all a lot to do about nothing, right? Stafford back in LA, a rework deal. The Rams played Philadelphia closer than any team in the playoffs, and it wasn't even close. I mean, think about it. Philadelphia dominated Green Bay, absolutely throttled Washington, and beat Kansas City into submission. In a snowstorm, a pretty good snowstorm at that, the LA Rams were, 25 yards away from beating Philadelphia? Why blow it up? There was talk LA was going to do that. That appears not to be the case. Stafford is back in the fold, and clearly LA will be one of the favorites in the NFC in 2025. How about this story? You see this? Jimmy Johnson, the Hall of Fame coach, coached my man Leon Searcy at the University of Miami for part of his time there. 31 years as a broadcaster on Fox, has retired today from television after 31 years at the network. That will be weird. That will be very, very odd next year, seeing Terry Bradshaw and Howie Long, Michael Strahan, Gronk, and no Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy added something to that show, man. Added a lot to it, actually. He was a big, big part of it. He was a great coach. He was also a terrific broadcaster. Best of luck to Jimmy Johnson as he calls it a career after 31 years at Fox. And Fox NFL Sunday will certainly never be the same without Jimmy Johnson. Green Bay re-signed linebacker Isaiah McDuffie earlier today. Why am I telling you that? Well, there was some thought that McDuffie may come with Campanile to Jacksonville. Campanile coached McDuffie last year as a Green Bay linebacker. It wasn't hard to connect those dots. But yet, a week prior to free agency getting underway, Isaiah McDuffie re-signs in Green Bay, I believe, a 2-year deal. Always interesting to me when guys re-sign so close to free agency hitting. Did they circle the wagons at the combine, if you will, and find out maybe the market would not be good for them? I don't know why you'd settle when a bidding war can occur in 7 days unless you think there would not be a bidding war for your client's services. Who knows? But Isaiah McDuffie back in Green Bay with a 2-year deal. Deebo Samuel. Big news over the weekend. Deebo Samuel to the Washington Commanders, leaving San Francisco. Boy, Washington gave up basically nothing. What, a 5th-round pick? Now, I know Deebo's had some injury issues. He's certainly pushing, is he 29, pushing 30? But he's still a good football player. And to only have to give up a 5th-round selection to acquire Deebo Samuel, whew. You add him to Terry McLaurin and Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler and everybody that Jaden Daniels has at his disposal in Washington. If he stays healthy, again, if he stays healthy, it's a good deal for the Commanders. But, of course, Deebo Samuel has had issues staying healthy the last couple of years. Aaron Rodgers. We know he will not be back with the New York Jets. The question is, where will Aaron Rodgers wind up? Well, there's a lot of talk that Aaron Rodgers may just keep the address he has and just walk across the hall at MetLife Stadium to the New York Giants. Giants certainly are in the market to draft a quarterback as well, but if you can get Aaron Rodgers on a 1-year rental, why not? They're one of the teams being linked to Aaron Rodgers. See who the other team is? And this one's picking up a little steam. That's the Tennessee Titans. Remember when Aaron Rodgers signed in New York, there was legitimate talk back then about Tennessee. Ultimately, he goes to the Jets, but now the talk about Aaron Rodgers to Nashville is picking back up. That would allow Tennessee to draft a quarterback and have him learn under Rodgers, or potentially draft Abdul Carter or draft Travis Hunter at number 1 if you know you have Aaron Rodgers. Maybe Aaron Rodgers can be a mentor to Will Levis, right? Maybe Will Levis can sit back and learn from Aaron Rodgers for a year and then get another crack at it in 2026. It's interesting. If you're a Jaguar fan, would that concern you that Aaron Rodgers would go to Tennessee? Probably not at this point of his career, but certainly something to take note of, something to keep an eye on, the next destination for Aaron Rodgers. Again, as far as the Jaguars go, we'll see what happens this week with Christian Kirk. We'll see what happens this week with Evan Ingram. Both guys under contract. You would save some cap room, particularly with Kirk. If you release him, we should have clarity on that in the next 5 to 7 days. And the Jaguars do have roughly a dozen in-house free agents scheduled to hit the market next Monday. That includes, of course, Brandon Sheriff on the offensive line. And that includes, of course, Andre Sisco at safety. What they do in free agency will have a direct effect on what they do on the draft. The NFL Combine wrapped up yesterday in Indianapolis. Now that the Combine is in the rearview mirror, let's take a look at this draft class. Let's take a look at the Jaguars and that 5th overall selection. Now let's do it with one of my favorites, Ian Cummings of Pro Football Network, PFN. Fresh back from Indianapolis, Ian Cummings of PFN joins me next on a Monday night in Jacksonville, Florida. It's Hacker After Dark.
What's this one do?
Ultra booster.
Uh-huh. And what's that mean? What's the difference? We'll take it.
No, you can't take that. That's one of a kind. That's a
1010XL.
As of 9 a.m. this morning, our EV trucking company is officially in operation.
Andrew's zero-emission trucks are driving the transportation category forward.
We'll make driving safer, easier, and less stressful. Now our technology needs to keep up with demand.
He needs to put pedal to the metal on hiring more software engineers.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, it's easier for talented candidates to find it, which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Jags fans, here's your chance to score a trip to Green Bay for round 1 of draft night. Through the Everbank Draft Night Experience Sweepstakes, one lucky winner and a guest will be there live and in person to see the Jaguars make their first pick. To enter, visit everbank.com/draft by April 4th. That's everbank.com/draft. No purchase necessary to enter or win. Open to legal residents of the 50 United States and D.C. 18 and older. Entry period from 3/3/25 to 4/4/25. For official rules, prize description, odds of winning, and other details, visit everbank.com/draft. Sponsored and administrator, Everbank N.A.
I'm here with Danny Van Sickle, director of the Electrical Training Alliance. Danny, tell me about your program.
Hey, Rick, we're a 4-year electrical apprenticeship. Our students start out making over $40,000 a year, and right now make over $90,000 a year, including benefits. There is no tuition or student debt. You just have to apply and get accepted.
Did you say no tuition and no student debt?
You heard that right, Rick. Once you're accepted to the program, your only cost for the books and the course fees. About $800 a year.
That sounds like an amazing opportunity. How can I learn more?
Just go to etajax.org, and you can apply there.
Apply by May 15th.
The flagship station of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
At The Players, we are proud to support the Players Champions First Generation Scholarship Fund at UNF. Established to provide college scholarships to students who are the first in their families to attend college. It's just 8 days until the Players.
Barley and Pie Brewing Company is Fleming Island's first and only craft brewery, founded by the co-founder and brewmaster of Wicked Barley. Barley and Pie serves up local brews made right in your backyard. Hungry? Dive into their sourdough Neapolitan pizza, made fresh in-house every day. Find your new go-to spot in Fleming Island at Barley and Pie Brewing Company.
Hey everybody, it's Mike Dempsey, and I only like to recommend the best, which is why I'm proud to say that I chose Pella Windows and Doors for my own home. And now's a great time to upgrade your home with 0% financing for 60 months. That's 5 years of interest-free payments on the best windows and doors in the business. Don't wait. Schedule a free consultation at PellaJacks.com or visit their showroom on Phillips Highway just north of Bay Meadows. For quality you can trust and savings you can't miss, that's Pella Windows and Doors.
Tired of seeing the signs of aging in the mirror, fine lines, sun damage, redness? They don't have to be part of your future. I'm Dr. Mark Capsule, a board-certified dermatologist, and I can help you look and feel your best without invasive surgery or painful treatments. Imagine rejuvenating your skin in a relaxing, comfortable environment with minimal to no downtime. Smooth out fine lines, even skin tone, and restore that youthful glow. Find out how to look and feel your best at Dermagnify.com. Dermagnify.com.
Looking for adventure? Need a machine that works as hard as you do? CF Moto has you covered. At Ride Now Beach Boulevard, we've got CF Moto ATVs and UTVs built for any task, any trail, anytime. Tear up the dirt with the trail-tested C-Force ATV lineup or conquer through terrain with a Z-Force UTV. Find your CF Moto ride today at Ride Now Beach Boulevard or visit ridenowbeachboulevard.com. ATVs and UTVs are for riders 16 and older. They can be hazardous to operate. CF Moto recommends an improved safety training course.
Greenlaw Group is for the insured. If you think you have roof damage, call 904-302-7055 today, and they will schedule you a free roof inspection. Trust their law firm to help you fight your insurance when you need it. These storms can cause damage you may not even see yet. Call Greenlaw Group, 302-7055. There's no cost to retain their law firm and no cost to have your roof inspected. They only get paid if you win. Greenlaw Group, for the insured.
When you're experiencing sudden, unexpected dental pain, the last thing you want to hear is that your dentist can't see you until next week. That's why I'm so glad I found Harbor Dental Care. Whenever I call, they always find a way to see me within 24 hours, and they can usually fix whatever's wrong the same day. Plus, they have locations throughout Jacksonville, so no matter what side of town I'm on, I can always count on the same great care. If you want to find a dentist who believes in treating people right, learn more at harbordental.care. That's HARBOUR dental.care.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. The Combine in the rearview mirror. Now all eyes point towards free agency, which begins next week. Well, that's going to change here in Jacksonville. 10 draft picks, salary cap room to boot, and it's already been a crazy offseason from a new head coach to a new GM. Let's talk about all of it with Ian Cummings of Pro Football Network. He's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Ian, how we doing, man?
We're doing good. We're doing good. The combine is just about wrapping up. We had a ton of exciting testing numbers come in over the weekend. And, this is always a fun time of year. It's also, a little trepidatious, a lot of information overload, right? So you don't want to forget the tape. It's all part of the evaluation. But this is one very important milestone, very important checkpoint, and a lot to talk about, obviously.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And the Jaguars currently sit with 10 draft picks, 6 of which are in the top 125. And, of course, that number 5 overall selection. Ian, before we get to the Jaguars specifically, let's talk about the draft class as a whole. Now, I've heard from some people that maybe it's not the deepest class, but that you might still find some gems in the mid to later rounds. How would you assess this draft class from top to bottom?
I think it's definitely an interesting class in the sense that we have a clear tier of blue chip guys at the top, right? But then once you get past the 5-10 range, there are a lot of players that are pretty similar in the first round to the second round boundary, and I think how teams are going to navigate that. I think the Jaguars are well within that blue chip boundary at 5th overall, but still there is the aspect of, how do you play the board with team needs and then also BPA? How do you do that? Are you willing to take a slight trade down to get some more capital? Or do you want to make an aggressive move, right? I think this class has a decent amount of depth. And I'm always one to say, if you can find a player who has the right character mindset, who has the right physical tools, you can turn an uninspiring evaluation overall into a pretty good player down the line. If you can give him the resources to succeed if he has that potential. So overall, looking at it within that lens, I think it's a class that has a lot of depth at pretty important positions. I think premier positions, in particular, corner is a great position. I think wide receiver, the outlook there has looked a lot stronger, especially with the NFL Combine, putting some top performers on display. I think the defensive line, the trenches, the offensive guard, offensive tackle, guys with versatility, I think there's a lot of exciting appeal there, and safety as well. So I think a lot of those premier positions that have higher value as the NFL continues to evolve, I think we're starting to see more depth there.
Ian Cummings, Pro Football Network. Ian, before we talk about the Jaguars, let's talk about the first 4 picks. We like quarterbacks here in Jacksonville because the more quarterbacks that go, the more guys that will fall down the board to number 5. Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders. 1, 2, none. What's your opinion on the top 4 when it comes to those two?
My gut says 1. It's interesting because we've seen it happen both ways, right? I think back to, I think it was the 2022 class, maybe 2021 or 22, where we had that class with Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis. We were all thinking that, someone was going to fill the gap because of the QB tax, right? Even though they weren't great evaluations on their own, someone is going to be willing to take them high because they're a QB and they have, there's a lot of scarcity in that particular class. Lo and behold, Kenny Pickett is the only one to go in round 1, goes 21st overall. Obviously, we've seen how that class aged over time. Brock Purdy was the best one from the bunch, the last pick in the draft. So whenever you have a weaker class on the surface like this one, not a blue chip QB, there's always that thinking that someone is going to get inflated just because it's the way the QB position is. But you have to look at, are they good enough to make that happen as a prospect? Cam Ward, I think, is. He's not a blue chip guy, but I think he is talented enough, raw talent, to command that number 1 pick. And we've been seeing reports that the Titans are willing to trade out of that pick, get additional capital. And I look at teams like the Browns, like the Giants, the Jets potentially trying to make a move up. If the Raiders fall in love with someone, maybe they'll be aggressive. There are teams that are primed to be aggressive to make a move for that number 1 pick. And ultimately, I think Cam Ward is the guy that has the raw talent to make that happen and to be that guy. Shedeur Sanders is an interesting evaluation. I don't think he's an elite physical talent. I know that people will want to cross their T's and dot their I's with, his evaluation as a leader, right? But from everything that we've seen, I think he's accurate. I think he's a good distributor. I think his pre-snap work is great. It's just he's not an elite physical talent. So you factor in the other questions. Where does he go? We've seen reports that maybe he'll drop farther than 6th. I think there's too many QB needy teams. I would lean that he goes top 5, but in that 1, 2, 3, 4 range, I think I would lean 1. Just Cam Ward, he sells me. Shedeur doesn't quite yet.
It'd be interesting to see if one of those guys is available at 5. Does anybody want to get in front of the Raiders potentially as a trade back partner with the Jacksonville Jaguars? And that does bring us to the Jaguars, Ian. I guess at this point, we're a little less than 2 months out. The most mocked guy to the Jaguars is certainly Mason Graham, the defensive lineman out of Michigan. And even though people seem to really like him, I guess the weigh-in of 296 pounds maybe opened up some eyes this weekend in a negative way.
Yeah, and I think there's an important caveat that comes with NFL Combine weights. Most of these guys are trimming their weights to run a little faster, right? It's just the nature of the event. People are going to be running these numbers into their spreadsheets, into their systems, and seeing how these guys grade on the athletic, the quantifiable athletic matrix. But at the same time, Mason Graham will probably be playing closer to 305, 310, maybe even a little heavier than that, right? So, I think for him, it was more just an event specific development. I wouldn't read too much into it because a lot of these guys will be adding at least 5 to 10 pounds, when they're playing, and especially with NFL nutrition programs, could be even more. So I don't read too much into that. You look at the tape at Michigan where he weighed 310, 320, somewhere in there. Like, he was wrecking guys and he was holding up at the point of attack. He was encumbering double teams. He was generating a ton of torque and power on his extensions. He was really proving that he has the strength and power to size up in the trenches. And I think that's the most important thing. He's got great natural leverage, being around 6'3", popping his hands, explosive athlete. To me, the 296 figure, right on the surface, out of context, it does appear a little concerning, but it's not going to be his playing weight. So for me, I look at the college film. If he holds up there, I think it's not too concerning. So for my evaluation, he's a blue chip guy. He's a top 5 prospect. And I think especially for the Jaguars, who could definitely use some more of that, pass rush ability, that penetration ability on the interior, right? Preventing QBs from stepping up and preventing them from being able to move around and evade rushes. Mason Graham, to me, still fits that profile, even with the weight.
Ian Cummings, Pro Football Network. Ian, so are we thinking in the top 4? You mentioned one quarterback in your opinion. Obviously, Abdul Carter will probably be gone in the top 4, although some injury concerns, I guess, for the recent time. It looks like he'll be fine in the next 2 to 3 months. Travis Hunter, I guess the real question for Jacksonville is number 4, right? What does New England do? Because they could certainly go Mason Graham there, could they not?
They could. I think they're a team that has a pretty unique decision at number 4 overall. If I were the Patriots personally, I would look at Drake May, the investment that you've made into him as a QB, and I would try and get something for him, right? Wide receiver, it might be a little too early for a receiver at 4 in this class, but offensive tackle, for instance, Will Campbell from LSU would be a great pick. Kelvin Banks Jr., Armand Mambo from Missouri. So there's more options at that front, and we saw how their offensive tackle situation played out this past season. Caden Wallace, as a rookie, didn't perform very well. They were pretty rotational on the left side, and you want more security for a QB like that. So if I had to pick today for the Patriots, I would lean offensive tackle, something to help Drake May. But you're right. I think aside from that, on the defensive side, there are a number of ways that could go. I think you could get an additional corner opposite Christian Gonzalez. I think you could get some more help on the edge, especially if Abdul Carter is still there. I think he makes a lot of sense for that scheme with that Mike Vrabel is going to bring in. It's just a matter of who's still on the board. And ultimately, going back to the QB discussion, I think Shadur Sanders is a legit wild card in the top 4, right? If I was choosing today, I think it's very possible that he slips out, like I said. But we also know that if a QB is on the fringe talent-wise for that evaluation, all it could take is one team that falls in love or one team that sells themselves on him, and they can move up to take him. And that would bump another non-QB down for the Jaguars. But I think the Patriots are in a tough spot because they have a lot of needs. They could choose to trade down with someone too. If the Raiders, the Jets, like you said, are trying to trade in the top 5, it's a nexus of possibilities. And I think ultimately it's one situation that you can't really read this far out. You just got to wait and see what happens.
Along with Mason Graham, another guy that's been talked about here in Jacksonville is McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona. The interesting thing about him, though, some guys I've had on love him. Some guys I've had on are, quite frankly, just barely lukewarm on him. And then it comes out that he did not run the 40 at the Combine, and he does not plan on running a 40 at his pro day, which I guess is interesting, correct?
It's a little interesting, especially for a guy who's, probably going to be healthy at that point, right? I think for him, it's just go back to the tape. What does it show? And for me, he was never going to be a complete burner, right? I think you look at his tape and he's not straight running away from guys, but he's also not, there aren't gaps that are being traversed just like that. I think if I had to guess, play speed, maybe high 4.4, low 4.5, right? But for his size, right? I don't think it's too bad. I think the main thing that you're getting with Ted McMillan is he's one of the best contested catch guys that we've seen in a long time. And obviously, when you're looking at a contested catch guy, a wide receiver, you don't want them to be fully dependent on that, right? We've seen how that goes in the NFL. If you're dependent on contested catches and out muscling guys at the catch point, that's not going to be a sustainable method of success in the NFL, because you've got to be able to separate. You've got to be able to separate independently against corners and man coverage. But I think Ted McMillan can do that too. I think he makes his money not as a speed guy, but as a guy who can adjust his tempo in short ranges, can sink his hips well enough for his size, has a pretty good functional route tree as it stands. And then when he does get that little sliver of space that he needs to be comfortable, he's one of the best catchers that there is in this group. So he was never going to make his money with speed. So ultimately, I think the 40-yard dash time, that gets put under the microscope this time of year. I don't think it's too much of a concern. You look at the tape, there's GPS metrics out there too, right? So I think there's enough information aside from that to understand that he's going to be passable in that area. Now it's just a matter of, is he the right fit for you? For Jacksonville in particular, we know they could use some receiver help alongside Brian Thomas Jr. Christian Kirk's long-term future is uncertain there. Gabe Davis did not pan out in his first year. So I think wide receiver in the early rounds with the 3 day 2 picks in particular is definitely a viable option. Ted McMillan would probably be too high for me for the Jaguars. I would probably prefer someone who's a little smaller, can separate independently, play the slot, play the boundary. I look at guys like, Jalen Noel from Iowa State, who had a tremendous combine. He could be a very good fit. Ted McMillan, a great player, but I think the 40-yard dash time, it's not something to put under the microscope, but also understand, do we need this guy? For Jacksonville, the answer is probably not.
Final moments, Ian Cummings, Pro Football Network. Ian, as we wrap up, the Jaguars, as I said, 6 picks in the top 125. Along with what we've talked about with interior D-line, it's not the sexiest position, but interior O-line looks like a position of need, and safety, depending on the future of Andre Sisco, looks like a position of need. Whether it's round 2 or one of those picks in round 3, what would be your thought on a guy or two in the interior O-line or a safety that the Jaguars may look at in that area?
Yeah, I think it's something that demands heavy consideration, and part of it is you got to see what happens in the early rounds, right? Gray Zabel would be a tremendous pick for Jacksonville, but I'm not sure he makes that round 1. If you can get him to that early second round pick, would be a phenomenal value because he projects really well to guard and center. But you got to see how the board plays out. Donovan Jackson would be a great pick at guard because we know Liam Cohen loves to get his guards out in space. He loves to get them to the edge and the gap scheme so they can seal off defenders and allow running backs lanes inside. Donovan Jackson would be a great fit. I think that for safety, I look at a guy like Jalen Reed from Penn State. He's got the size. He's got the pedaling ability. Safety is a really intriguing conversation because at number 5, it's tricky. I think there is a gap in this class after Malachi Starks and Nick Emenwari from South Carolina. But if you're the Jaguars, you pretty much got to get one of those guys in round 1. So if you don't, you're looking at day 2, which again, I think Jonas Sanker from Virginia is another option who would be really good. He's very versatile, can play single high, 2 high in the box. He's really strong for his frame. He's a playmaker. There are options for sure in that day 2 range. It's just a matter of trying to get the best optimal value for the Jaguars. So, but I think ultimately, if in this class in particular, especially for offensive line, like we've seen in past years, there are offensive tackles that are shifting to guard more often than ever now, and this class in particular has been put under the microscope for that. A lot of guys who might have not the best arm length ratio to their height, right? And you're seeing talk about them moving inside. Marcus Mbow from Purdue is another option there. So I think it's the depth lines up for the Jaguars if they wanted to invest in those positions in that range, and I think you just got to play the board and see who's there.
Ian, tell the good folks here in Jacksonville, Pro Football Network, and the coverage you'll have in the coming weeks.
Yeah, so we are now after the NFL Combine. We're in the ramp up, less than 2 months to go, and PFN is going to be surging along 100%. We'll be updating our mock draft simulator constantly. So you can use that, and you can follow me at IC_draft on Twitter, or X, formerly Twitter. I'll be doing draft analysis, mock drafts. Hit me up if you have any questions. And yeah, it's just going to be a fun time. This is where we do our final checks on the tape, and we see new things every day. So it's a great time to keep an open mind with the rankings and the evaluations and see what happens come April.
He's one of our favorites, Ian Cummings of Pro Football Network. Ian, I know you're busy. Thank you for the time. We'll do it again soon, pal.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Ryan.
From pit road to victory lane.
Checkered flag
is in the air.
This Sunday at Phoenix, NASCAR is revved up by the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Local Union 234. From Jacksonville's NASCAR station, 1010XL.
My name is Ann. I'm 67 years old. I lost 25 pounds thanks to Awaken 180 weight loss. I have so much more energy. I feel at least 20 years younger. I can run up the stairs now where it was a little bit hard for me. My knees would always hurt. I had shoulder pain. I've had elbow pain. I think it's all pretty much from the weight that I had on my body, on my frame. It feels amazing that Awaken 180 offers free maintenance for life. The fact that I have free coaching when the weight loss process is over is absolutely amazing to me.
Hey, it's Matt Hayes. Less joint pain, more energy, reducing medications. The benefits of losing weight with Awaken 180 are endless. The ability to maintain that weight loss, priceless. Free support for life. Online at awaken180weightloss.com or call 844-346-1800.
Duck Duck Rooter is currently hiring in all departments. We want great plumbers, CDL drivers, drain field installers, and lift station technicians. If you have experience in your trade and love to deliver a super high-quality level of customer service, you have found the right company. You will enjoy our benefits package that includes excellent weekly pay, paid holidays, health insurance, and working for the best in the industry. Apply at duckduckrooter.com. That's duckduckrooter.com. And click on the careers page. Duck Duck Rooter is an equal opportunity employer.
Don't miss the Players Championship, March 11th through 16th at TPC Sawgrass. This can't-miss event features a variety of activities for every fan to enjoy, from delicious bites to the Sawgrass Splash. There are endless fan enhancements that will make for a memorable experience. Plus, watch the top PGA Tour players, including back-to-back champion Scotty Scheffler, take on the iconic stadium course featuring the famous Island Green. Tickets available at theplayers.com.
Staying Alive, One Night of the Bee Gees comes to Jacksonville Center for the Performing Arts March 6th. A tribute like you've never seen before. Staying Alive features the songs and sights of a full Bee Gees playlist, performed live. Experience Night Fever, More Than a Woman, How Deep Is Your Love, and more live on stage. Staying Alive, One Night of the Bee Gees, March 6th at Jacksonville Center for the Performing Arts. Tickets at fscjartistseries.org.
I'm Max Fink, and I'll bring you the Gator Report several times weekly to keep you connected to Gainesville.
The Gator Report, put together by San Jose Collision on the home of the Florida Gators, 1010XL.
Go, Gators!
Why is the Dead Sea so named? The answer next.
Southern Oak Insurance is proud to continue offering coverage statewide. Financial stability makes Southern Oak Insurance a wise choice for your homeowner's insurance needs. Log on to southernoak.com.
Our family protecting yours. Southern Oak Insurance.
The Dead Sea is 9 times saltier than any other sea, which means no living creature can actually live there.
Southern Oak Insurance, our family protecting yours.
What's happening, folks? E.T. here, and it may be hard to believe, but Spring Park is just around the corner. Are you ready for an adventure? Whether you're kayaking on Black Creek, hiking through Jennings State Forest, or enjoying live entertainment, Clay County is the perfect place to relax and explore. Plan your trip and find out what's happening at exploreclay.com. And don't forget to share your adventures by tagging #ExploreClay on social media. Come on, somebody.
Lauren Brooks here for Terminix. When pests invade your home or business, you don't just need them out, you need them out fast. And you need to keep them out. At Terminix, they'll show up for you and eliminate pests quicker, just like they did at my house, because they care about what matters most to you. When pests show up, so does Terminix. Don't live with a pest problem, Terminix it. Visit Terminix.com today to schedule a free inspection online. That's TERMINIX.com. That's right, Terminix it.
Hi, I'm Sean Monahan from Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach. Since 1977, we've been Jacksonville's local family jeweler with a beautiful selection of fine jewelry and certified diamonds. But we're also Jacksonville's leading buyer of gold and silver and diamonds from the public. Gold has recently hit an all-time high at almost $3,000 per ounce. Pay bills, buy something fun. Now is the time to sell your gold for cash and get top dollar, or trade it in for a new piece and get even more value at Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach.
Denny Thompson here. You got to check out Tyson's Showroom Home Theater with surround sound and comfy theater chairs. You can transform your living room into a cinematic experience. I can stay there to watch all my games. It's that comfortable. Call Tyson today and bring the theater experience home. Tyson Sound and Security, your security, home theater, and home automation experts. New showroom at 3555 U.S. Highway 17 in Fleming, Iowa.
I'm Stacy, and I want to tell you about my fogged up window fiasco at my house. I called up Mac at Baker Glass. He told me all I needed was a glass replacement. The process was so easy. All within a few days, they came out, measured, called me with an estimate, cut my glass, and came out to install the new ones. Now my view outside is fog-free thanks to Mac and his crew at Baker Glass. And my neighbors think I got some fancy new windows.
I'm Mac with Baker Glass. No one treats you better.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
20 minutes after the 9 o'clock hour. Glad you're with us. Hacker After Dark on a Monday. 1010XL 92.5 FM. Coming up in 15 minutes or so, Travis Holmes, host of the Duval Dive podcast. You can also read his work at Big Cat Country. We'll certainly review the Combine. We will take a look ahead at NFL free agency. Again, 1 week from today, negotiations can begin, and pen can meet paper a week from Wednesday as free agency will begin in the National Football League. Couple of non-Jaguar related items. The Florida Gators got a nice bounce-back win on Saturday against the Texas A&M team, albeit that's leaking water, that's lost like 4 in a row. But that's still a good A&M team. An A&M team that battled, was really quite competitive with the Gators for about 30 minutes or so. I mean, it was 65-59 and pretty deep into the second half. And then Florida just does what they do, man. They just started drilling threes, pulling away, ultimately won the game by 19 over the number 12 ranked Aggies. I got to tell you, Denmark, that game could have gone one of two ways, right? If Florida would have lost A&M, boy, the conversation today would have been vastly different. Losing to Georgia, losing to A&M, but Florida does what they've done the entire year. They respond beautifully to losses. I mean, every time they've lost a game, they come out the very next game and put it on somebody. And they did it again to A&M. Now, they got a gigantic win on Wednesday against Alabama, and we'll certainly preview that game more tomorrow. That game potentially in Tuscaloosa could be for a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. But I thought a dominating performance by the Gators coming off of that loss to Georgia.
Yeah, I didn't get chances to watch it live. I saw the highlights after, but it was checking the scores, and I felt like it was like within like 7 points the entire game, and then they kind of pulled away toward the end. Game day was there for the first time in a long time, which was good, and there was a lot of good things that happened in that game. Walter Clayton kind of got his groove back, and Florida's just finding different ways to win games, and now you have Handlockton and Alex Condon both in the lineup, and now you have, you're 8-9 deep, would you say?
Yeah, not including Sam Alexis, who's still hurt, and I don't think he's going to find minutes anyway when he comes back.
Yeah, so now it's your Florida. You have the big game against Bama, playing for the 1 seed, and now, what's this team like now with all of these guys now in the rotation? Because you've had injuries. You've had the red shirt. Now, no, he's not going to be red shirt. He's going to be playing. So this is what the team's going to look like. And it looks pretty good. And, it's easy to say that, when you have a lot better players and more players playing, that it makes the team better. But sometimes that can, you don't know how to use it right if you're a coach. And Florida's done it right.
Yeah, Florida's done a terrific job. Again, there hasn't been an issue with minutes, like you said. The guys aren't complaining. The guys want to win. And I'll tell you this, too. For all the talk about Walter Clayton, with good reason, for all the talk about Alex Condon and Thomas Houck, with good reason, boy, Will Richard has played out of his mind the last couple of games. People don't talk about his 30-point game against Georgia because Florida lost. But Will Richard, almost single-handedly won the game for Florida in the second half. He was on another heater against Texas A&M where he had 6 threes, just drilling shots. I'll tell you, Denmark, you look at Will Richard's shot, it's not a thing of beauty, man. I don't think...
it doesn't have to be.
No, it doesn't. I don't think they're going to... A lot of, pure shooters are going to teach that method to their students because it looks a little funky and a little odd. But, man alive, it gets the job done more times than it doesn't. And Will Richard has been absolutely fantastic. Florida has all but clinched a double bye in the NCAA, or in the SEC tournament, rather. See, the way the SEC tournament works, now that there are 16 teams... So on Wednesday, it begins. 9 will play 16, 8 plays 15, 10, and so on. You got the 4 games, right? The seeds 5, 6, 7, and 8 then get into the fray on Thursday. They play the 4 winners of Wednesday's game, right? Stay with me. And then Florida will finally play on Friday against one of the 4 winners from Thursday's game. So odds are, if Florida's the 2 or the 3 seed, which they're going to be more than likely, they're not going to play till the evening session on Friday in the SEC tournament. And there will already be 10 or 11 teams eliminated from the SEC tournament before Florida even gets on the court. That's just how odd it's going to be with 16 teams this year. But 4 SEC tournament games on Wednesday, 4 on Thursday, 4 on Friday, and then 2 on Saturday, and ultimately the championship game on Sunday. And as Jay Billis said earlier this year, Denmark, and I'm not sure I disagree with him, it might be every bit as hard, if not harder, to win that tournament in Nashville than it will be to cut down the nets for the NCAA tournament in late March.
Yeah, and I wonder if you're Florida, Auburn, Alabama, depending on who wins the game Wednesday. Like, do you try to win the tournament if you pretty much already locked up a 1 seed, or do you, try, you don't try to lose, but lose the first game and then have a whole week of rest going into the tournament? Because remember Florida last year when they made that run in the SEC tournament, they kind of looked tired when they got to that first weekend of March Madness. And, winning an SEC title is cool, but, it's all for nothing if you can't win and string some wins together in the NCAA tournament.
It's a good point. It's a question that's asked about this time every year, and I agree with you. Florida made it all the way to the finals last year, but keep in mind they had that awful hand-locked injury, and then they were on the floor 5 days later against Colorado, and Colorado just decided not to miss. Florida scored 100 points in that game. They just gave up 102 in losing in round 1. Let me ask you this, and I was bringing this up with a couple of Gator guys this weekend. If Florida gets out of the opening weekend, which they should, if they don't, it's a gigantic upset, right? If they lose in the round of 64 or the round of 32, it will be a gigantic upset. It will certainly be a disappointment then. But let's assume that doesn't happen. And let's assume quickly they get into the Sweet 16. But let's say it ends there, the Sweet 16. Would that still be considered a disappointment, the way the season has gone for the Gators?
For this team, yes.
Yeah, I think the fans are going to think so, and maybe some media. Obviously, you do. Man, when you get to the Sweet 16, aren't all bets off? If you're in the Sweet 16, everybody at that point can beat anybody. Everybody's good, right?
Yeah, but everybody's viewing this team as one of the best teams. If one of the best teams in the country loses in the Sweet 16, regardless of who they are, that's kind of you're selling yourself short.
So is your expectation Final Four a disappointment?
No, I'd say Elite Eight. I would be good with an Elite Eight, making that final weekend and the second weekend. Anything after that's really good.
Well, we'll find out. Selection Sunday is only 13 days away. In fact, the Atlantic Sun tournament's already begun. UNF was eliminated last night. Boy, that's tough, man. UNF, only 1 NCAA tournament appearance all the way back in 2015. That's a tough deal for my alma mater. JU did win tonight, so JU advances. They are in the semis of the A-Sun. Now, I believe they have to play the number 1 seed, now North Alabama, which will be tough. But the JU Dolphins find themselves 2 wins away from the NCAA tournament. And JU hasn't gone dancing in a long, long time. They're 2 wins away. We'll see if they can get it done. I believe their next game will be this Thursday. Coming up next, back into the Jaguars, Travis Holmes, Big Cat Country. He's also the host of the Duval Dive podcast. Let's review the Combine and let's preview free agency with my buddy Travis Holmes of the Duval Dive podcast. And again, Big Cat Country. He's next on a Monday here in Northeast Florida. It's Hacker After Dark.
For many, it's the happiest place on earth.
At 17 in Players Championship.
Get live Southeast Orthopedic Specialist leaderboard updates.
Covered by Universal Roof and Contracting.
Cool Cats Heating and Cooling.
And Beaver Toyota.
On 1010XL.
These days, it feels like everyone is talking about how the American dream of homeownership has become out of reach for so many of us. Well, Rocket is trying to give us more of a chance to own our homes. They're making homeownership simpler and more accessible to more people, turning renters into owners. Rocket believes that every one of us deserves a shot at the American dream. So, are you ready? Own the dream. Visit Rocket.com. That's Rocket.com.
This is Greg Huntington, a.k.a. The Mangler. I'm on the winning team at Waste Management. WM is the largest sustainability company in North America. If your business needs sustainable environmental services for waste removal and recycling collection, then you can count on the industry leader of WM to deliver results. Your services will be completed in a timely, safe, and eco-friendly manner. Go to WM.com/Duval. That's WM.com/Duval and get signed up today. If anyone can talk trash, it's the Mangler.
The LPGA Stars of Tomorrow are at the Epson Tours Atlantic Beach Classic, presented by Access Golf, March 6th through the 8th at Atlantic Beach Country Club. Tickets available at AtlanticBeachClassic.com. See the ladies shine on the First Coast.
Mia here. You want to know what I'm so over? Resolutions. You want to know what I am into? The Revolution, hitting the road in a new Toyota from Arlington Toyota. So what do you say? Join the Arlington Toyota Revolution and save big with financing as low as 0% on select new models. Or get up to $8,500 off select new Toyotas. Plus, every new Toyota purchase from Arlington Toyota comes with Arlington's lifetime warranty and 60-day exchange. Shop in person on Atlantic Boulevard, just a quarter mile east of 295, or at arlingtontoyota.com. Visit arlingtontoyota.com/0% for full details.
Share a cup of coffee and range balls with Dan, Jeff, and PGA pros. Tour news, tips, and inside info.
Sounds like a lot of club for this young man.
Brunch with the Tour.
Brought to you by Clearwater Irrigation, 8:30 Tuesday morning on 1010XL.
You waited forever for your new fence. Then strangers show up. Subcontractors rushing the job. Sent by the company you trusted. Frustrating, right? Superior Fence and Rail promises better. Their professionally trained builders deliver quality you can trust. No subcontractors, no shortcuts. Just the superior craftsmanship your home deserves.
When you're on the fence, about the fence, SuperiorFenceandRail.com. Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you.
Instant Keys saves the day if you have lost or broken keys. They can program new keys and remotes for nearly every make and model of vehicle at a fraction of the dealership cost. Fast, honest, and reliable locksmith service. Call 722-1111.
Instant Keys. Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you.
Life is about choices and the decisions you make. I'm David Robbins with Epstein & Robbins. If you're convicted of a DUI, you'll have to face severe consequences. Walking through the doors of the courthouse or appearing at a bond hearing can be extremely intimidating. Without the right lawyer, you're likely to make the wrong decision. Let our team help you make the right decisions in court. Epstein & Robbins, the right choice.
Epstein & Robbins, fighting for your rights since 1975.
Youth sports at the YMCA's focus on teamwork, discipline, and building confidence. Our experienced coaches can create a positive and supportive environment where your kids can grow, stay active, and develop a love for sports. Sports like basketball, volleyball, swimming, gymnastics, and even elite skills training. Join the fun and register. Give your kids a chance to be a part of something special. Visit fcymca.org to learn all about youth sports at the Y.
Getting a pool?
David Garrard here. I just did. But before they dug, I called Clearwater Irrigation, and they capped off all my sprinkler lines so the pool company could just dig away.
Then when your pool's finished, we'll install your sprinkler system back to full coverage.
And now my backyard oasis is getting watered beautifully.
And maybe then, Dave, I could take another quick dip.
Bigger swimming trunks, John. Much bigger.
Clearwater Irrigation.
And drainage, too.
Collisions happen on every play in football. Collisions also happen every day on the road. If you need auto body repair, from a $30 job to a $30,000 job, trust San Jose Collision in Mandarin.
No matter what the reason, sending a floral arrangement from Kuhn Flowers always works. For unique and special gifts, visit their showroom on Beach Boulevard. ET here with Tintin XL. Kuhn Flowers is my go-to, and it should be yours too. Online at KuhnFlowers.com.
Your hole-in-one for men's health is Ackerman Urology. With offices in Mandarin, Middleburg, World Golf Village, and the beaches, Ackerman will get you on par for any prostate conditions and sexual vitality. Visit AckermanUrology.com.
Tired of seeing the signs of aging in the mirror? Fine lines, sun damage, redness? They don't have to be part of your future. I'm Dr. Mark Capel, a board-certified dermatologist, and I can help you look and feel your best without invasive surgery or painful treatments. Imagine rejuvenating your skin in a relaxing, comfortable environment with minimal to no downtime. Smooth out fine lines, even skin tone, and restore that youthful glow. Find out how to look and feel your best at Dermagnify.com. Dermagnify.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Right here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. Scouting Combine in the rearview mirror. Now all eyes look ahead to free agency, which begins next week as the NFL offseason continues chugging right along. Let's talk about James Gladstone. Let's talk about the Combine, and let's look ahead to what the Jaguars need to do here over the next 7 to 10 days leading into free agency with Travis Holmes. He is the host of the Duval Dive podcast. You also read him at Big Cat Country, and Travis is always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Travis, how we doing?
Hey, man, it's a busy time as always. You know, NFL offseason, that monster never stops.
It has been wild, no question about it. Now, you and I talked a few weeks back, but James Gladstone was not in the fold then. He is now the 34-year-old brand new general manager. Travis, what did you make of the Gladstone hire?
They loved it. I mean, we talked about this like early on, like offline. Like this was back in November, someone who was on the list of, top 4 or 5 guys. And then he just kind of rocket shipped to the top of that list. The more you look into him, the more information you find out, the more it's like, oh, man, he might be the guy. And if he's not the guy, he's absolutely in the top 2. And that's kind of how this thing worked out. So I'm ecstatic, especially with the working relationship that he already has with Liam Cohen and making that acclimation go a little bit quicker. We know the Jaguars will be a little bit behind the 8 ball as far as the combine and draft season and free agency and all of that. So to Liam Cohen's original point in his introductory presser that, hey, this allows that acclimation period to go a little bit quicker because we kind of already know where each other, we know where we are as far as personnel, as far as our style and type of players, things of that nature. Hey, I think it works out, and I think that was probably a huge part of why they landed on Gladstone, just because, again, it gets those guys on the same page.
Serious youth movement here. It's been talked about a lot. A 34-year-old GM, a 39-year-old head coach, a 29-year-old offensive coordinator. I guess Campanile is the elder statesman at 42 on the defensive side of the ball. Concern for you at all, or is it much ado about nothing?
I was concerned early on because I didn't know enough about these guys, and I will honestly say I have a little bit of I'll keep an eye on it kind of thing, but I wouldn't put it to the level of true concern at this point because again we've gone the established route so often in Jacksonville. What we have to do this. But like we have to sign Doug Peterson because he has a Super Bowl championship. We have to sign Urban Meyer because he's the guy. He's the guy in this cycle. Like we have to sign all these guys, and then it doesn't work out because, well, they don't have this forward-thinking process. They don't, they're not the next big thing on the scene, if that makes any sense. We had this conversation might have been 2 or 3 times ago when I was on with you. The Jaguars, the last time they've had an offensive, philosophy that was a forward-thinking, more modern, offensive coach might have been during Tom Coughlin's time, maybe. Like, I don't know that they've necessarily even had one like since then. So I'm ecstatic about the Liam Cohen, going to the more modern NFL, the Sean McVay tree, going with the James Gladstone, going with the more modern, a little bit analytics driven, but also pairing it with those analytics driven kind of front office structure. If it doesn't work, it's going to be not because they're young. It's simply going to be because they're not good at their jobs. But I have less confidence that it's going to be anything associated with their age, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the absolutely crazy thing, it's under 50 is the mark. I believe Tom Coughlin is the last quote-unquote offensive guy that was under the age of 50 when hired, that was the head coach here in Jacksonville. I mean, Gus Bradley and Jack Del Rio were young, but they were defensive minds. But then you had the Mike Mularkeys, the Doug Marones, the Doug Petersons, the Urban Meyers were all 50-plus when they were brought on board here as the head coach. Travis Holmes, Big Cat Country, and host of the Duval Dive podcast. Travis, I know you're a draft guy. You're a combine guy. The combine is in the rearview mirror. A lot of talk coming out of Indianapolis about the lines of scrimmage in regards to the Jaguars. Obviously, a lot of talk about Mason Graham at number 5. What is your thought about the O-line and the D-line? Do you think the Jaguars will address those positions relatively early?
I hope so, and it sounds like that's the case, and I'm so happy. You have no idea how happy I am to have these kind of conversations at this time of year in Duval County. Like, for years, we've known the Jacksonville Jaguars offensive line and defensive line have been problematic, and for years, we've kind of sat on our hands and just kind of doubled down or made incremental changes to try to make it work because we just believe that in the philosophy or the scheme or fill-in-the-blank football terms that don't really mean anything. At the end of all of it, like the fact that we're having conversations saying, hey, man, we need to get a dominant offensive line. We need to have a violent and aggressive defensive front. Those words mean something to me, but they also mean to me that, hey, get ready for a boring draft, and I'm all in on it. Like, most people want this flashy receiver. They love BTJ. I love BTJ. Don't get me wrong. Brian Thomas Jr., the rookie from LSU. But I need the most boring, sound, foundational draft for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm talking interior linemen. I'm talking tackles of the future. I'm talking defensive tackles, like you mentioned, Mason Graham. I'm talking all of these guys to make sure that we have this line set for now and for the foreseeable future, that we can build this thing like the Detroit Lions, build this thing like the Philadelphia Eagles. Having solid foundations and our skill positions and scheme will kind of take care of the rest.
I know a lot was made out of Mason Graham weighing in, I believe, at 296 pounds. Is that a red flag for you?
It was. I won't lie to you. Like, he wins because he's so good at shedding blocks, and like he's even able to beat double teams primarily because of that ability. Like, he has a solid anchor, even just looking at his film. But his ability to shed blocks is truly like top of the class. But you're going to be playing against guys who are your best competition literally week in and week out in an NFL. And coming in at 296 is a little bit problematic because it takes away of that dream from some defensive coordinators that they're going to be able to maybe put on 5-10 pounds to have you at 225 because Michigan listed him at 220. That dream is kind of gone. So he's probably going to be that guy who's around that 305, 310 range, playing weight realistically. And that means that the Jacksonville Jaguars then have some other conversations that need to be had because they have guys like that right now. Like, they have Mason, Smith. They have Eric Armstead, 290. They have a few guys with that similar body type in that 3-technique role that they're just going to have to figure out how they're going to want to run their defense and if that's something that they'd be willing to do as far as the defensive line rotation.
Couple of more for Travis Holmes of Big Cat Country. All right, Travis, that brings us to free agency. The negotiation period begins on Monday the 10th. You can officially sign contracts on Wednesday the 12th. we know a lot of deals will be agreed to in that 48-hour window. Before we begin with the outside free agents, let's talk about the in-house guys. There's about a dozen of them. Of all the guys that are scheduled to become free agents, I said Caleb Johnson and Luke Farrell are probably the two I'm most interested in re-signing. I don't know about anybody else, to be honest, which includes Brandon Sheriff and Andre Sisco. Let's talk about those two. Those are the two starters that will hit the market next week. Do you believe Sheriff and Sisco have played their final games in Jacksonville?
I do believe that to be the case for Sheriff. Just honestly, either he's going to make the decision that he's going to continue with his career outside of Jacksonville, or he's going to end up retiring, and that's just the decision that he has to make with his family over the next few days. But nevertheless, I do believe in his case for sure that he's probably played his last game in Jacksonville. As far as Andre Sisco, that's a more difficult one because he's probably going to be someone who's going to test the market and kind of figure out where that lands. With the down year of the defense across the board, all of the secondary for the most part, and the defensive front to go along with that, it's kind of like he has that built-in excuse that, hey man, this just wasn't it. The scheme, everything didn't work together, etc. But also for me, someone who watches the tape, Sisco had some other issues as far as eye discipline and just staying in as the middle of the field safety, being in the right spot for what the defense calls for. And that gives me some concern. So I do believe that there is a world where Sisco is able to kind of re-sign in Jacksonville on maybe a prove-it deal if he's open and willing to do something along those lines. But that's truly going to come down to how the new defensive coordinator, Anthony Campanelli, is going to feel about that and whether Sisco is going to be open to that conversation. So that one truly feels like a coin flip.
One would think, Travis, that in the next certainly 7 days or so, we should have clarity on the futures, at least in 2025, on Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram. There are cap savings that the Jaguars would acquire if they were released. There's some talk about trades, or could they both be back? How do you think that ultimately winds up?
If you would have asked me this question before the Jacksonville Jaguars hired their new coach and new general manager, I probably would have said I didn't believe that Christian Kirk was going to be here, and that would have been I would have probably leaned on Evan Ingram being here. And now knowing what we've seen through the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, what we've seen in the past as far as the Rams are concerned, they generally are guys or teams who are going to have the tight ends are going to have to be able to block. They just are. And normally their second or third receiver is going to need to be able to block pretty well also as far as being in the run game. That's not generally Evan Ingram's game, and I would even argue that's on some level it's not Christian Kirk's game, but he's at least a little bit better as far as the blocking. He gives the effort as far as that piece is concerned. I do believe that there is I don't think that the Jacksonville Jaguars should feel comfortable in opening that hole, opening an additional hole for Evan Ingram and allowing him to leave when you're putting in a new offense. But I do believe that there are some questions about whether or not Evan Ingram's going to be able to work in Liam Cohen's offense as far as just being able to block and establish that run game, because they're really big on being efficient in the run game. As far as Christian Kirk, I do believe that he's probably going to be a prime restructure candidate and maybe be in Jacksonville for another year or 2 years and then kind of see where that lands.
Final moments, Travis Holmes of Big Cat Country. All right, as far as the outside free agents, the conventional thinking is with the cap room the Jaguars have, even if Kirk and Ingram are here, and that's what I'm basing this on, they still have about 30 to 31 million in cap room. So the thought is maybe one or two, I guess, splashes, I would call them, and then the rest are going to be kind of mid-tier guys. If they were to make a splash or two, Travis, who would you call? Because a lot of people around here really want Javon Holland from Miami.
And that is a splash, sure. But again, I'm of the opinion that the Jaguars are going to have the most boring offseason ever. And I do mean that. So I'm looking at when you're talking free agents and things of that nature, I'm looking on the offensive lines and defensive lines even then still. Like I'm looking at, Drew Dahlman, the Falcons center. I'm looking at maybe even trading for Jonah Jackson, who's reportedly on the trading block for the Rams, who plays center and guard. I'm looking at guys like that, so then they can go into the draft, truly go BPA, best player available, something along those lines. Like Holland is a great option, but with the Jaguars also having so many picks, I can see they may want to just go either safety or cornerback. So then you have guys like Carlton Davis out of Detroit, whether Byron Murphy Jr. from the Vikings, things of that, like those are both cornerback options, because we still don't know how they're going to feel about Ronald Darby and the rest of the Jacksonville Jaguars secondary. Campanelli likes to play more man and zone combinations, not just primarily man. Ronald Darby was brought in primarily to be a press man cover corner. That may not work well together. I actually personally feel that they may lean into that cornerback market and maybe even the guard market, just to be able to go into the draft and truly say who's the best player. I'm truly going to go that route in the first round.
Travis, tell us about Big Cat Country, also the Do All Dive podcast. Where can people find you?
Well, that's really it, man. You can find me on all the socials, Travis D. Holmes, whether that's X, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, etc. I'm going to do all dive myself and Kyle, the student of the game Nash, with Fans First Sports Network. We discuss all things Jacksonville Jaguars, whether it's a 10-minute little snippet where he's giving you the quick updates, or we're doing an hour and a half just to talk about everything, including the offseason, which is those conversations can get a little wild, but we just want to give fans an avenue to kind of have these conversations and get your questions answered directly. We interact very often. Same thing with BigCatCountry.com, with the SB Nation's longest running Jacksonville Jaguars fan site. So definitely favorite us. We have you covered on all the press conferences, all the news updates. BigCatCountry.com. Don't get your news from all these other aggregate websites. Come and get it from the people local on the ground.
Travis Holmes. Travis, it's a busy time of year. Thank you for your time, buddy. We'll do it again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Now the cool down with Donovan Air, Electric and Plumbing, keeping Jack's cool since '87.
And thank you to Travis Holmes, Big Cat Country and host of the Duval Dive podcast, for joining us tonight here on Hacker After Dark. It's hard to believe the combine in the rearview mirror, and we are 1 week away. In fact, 1 week from today, the negotiation period in free agency can begin. Deals can be agreed to in principle. They can be signed on the dotted line a week from this Wednesday. So it is going to be wild. In fact, you started to see some things take place around the league today. Darius Slay, 3 weeks after winning a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles, was informed he will be released by Philadelphia. We saw Alex Kappa, a longtime starting offensive guard in Cincinnati, get his walking papers from the Bengals today, and you will see that more and more this week. As I wouldn't even call it the calm before the storm. The storm is kind of already happening as teams are going to get their finances in order prior to next Monday when NFL free agency does begin. So we certainly spent a ton of time on the Jaguars tonight, both reviewing the combine and looking ahead to free agency, including some decisions the Jaguars will have to make this week leading in to next Monday. Well, that will just about do it. It has been a very busy Monday night edition of Hacker After Dark. We certainly appreciate you guys hanging out with us here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM. We have a ton of people to thank. Again, Travis Holmes of the Duval Dive podcast and Big Cat Country. Always appreciate Travis joining us. Thank you to Ian Cummings of Pro Football Network. Ian's one of my favorites when it comes to talking draft, as we reviewed the combine and certainly focused on that 5th overall selection for Jacksonville. So again, thank you to Ian Cummings of Pro Football Network. And back in hour number 1, my buddy Brian Sexton, Jaguars.com, stopped by to review everything that's transpired this offseason and give his thoughts as to what's going to happen over the next 7 to 10 days or so as free agency approaches. Now, we will be back tomorrow night on a Tuesday, and we will do it all over again beginning at 8 o'clock. Dylan Denmark was your producer tonight. Dylan, great job as always. I'm the hacker Ryan Green. And again, Jacksonville, thank you for spending part of your Monday evening with us right here on Hacker After Dark on 1010XL and